The CERB we were just talking about, another crucial support during the pandemic has been the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy. That's a benefit that has helped keep many struggling businesses afloat, has kept Canadians in their jobs, has kept the economy ticking. But a CBC News investigation has learned that one of this country's most exclusive golf clubs is now sitting on $1 million surplus, thanks largely to those very federal funds. One of our CBC News investigative reporters is with me this morning. Jonathan Gatehouse is in Toronto. He's been looking into this. And Jonathan, what have you found?
Oh, good morning, Heather. What we found is a story about the Royal Ottawa Golf Club. It's one of Canada's oldest and most prominent private courses. It's home to NHL stars and some big-name politicians. And it costs $30,000 a year to join, an initiation fee of $30,000 to join, and which was going to go up to $35,000 this year. And as it turns out, this year they had a banner season despite the pandemic, and that, as you has mentioned, was largely due to the federal wage subsidy. CBC News obtained the club's financial statements and a recording of its annual general meeting, and they show that the Royal Ottawa booked a $1 million surplus this fiscal year, and that the club attributes $825,000 of that money directly to CEWS. They sought the federal assistance to pay their employees, but it appears that their business turned around much faster than expected.
Now, you've obviously raised this with the club, and what is it saying about the wage subsidy and what it's done with the money?
Well, our requests for an interview with Royal Ottawa's club president were declined, but the club did send us a letter in response to a list of our detailed questions. They say that the $1 million in federal money was used to rehire employees that they had laid off in the spring and then bring back seasonal workers over the summer. And that the fact that they ended up with their fiscal year with a big surplus doesn't mean that they're in any way obliged to pay this money back to the federal government. The club says the surplus is being used going forward as a cushion against new COVID costs. They provided us with an example of a Thanksgiving dinner for 300 people that they said they ended up having to cancel at the last minute because restrictions changed. And they said that they're also using that money to pay down their line of credit.
And the government, Jonathan, what is its position on this?
Well, its position has been a bit muddled, Heather. Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, went before a committee in the House of Commons last week, and she said that the money for CEWS was strictly for paying employees. But, as well, when and her office, has also pointed to the penalties for misuse, saying that if a company or an organization is found to have abused these funds in any way, they can be asked to pay it all back with a 25% penalty on top. But it's not clear that the government ever anticipated situations where corporations and organizations would end up with big surpluses or profits as a result of this aid that was targeted at workers. And we asked them what they intended to do about that situation. That's not something that they've responded to yet.